What was your most memorable move, and what did you learn from it?
I kind of learned a lesson in that sometimes you just need to do the job to the best of your ability and things will work out.
Arpin Van Lines. We are family strong. And we appreciate our family of drivers who have helped build this company. Drivers who are dedicated to their job while respecting the past. A past built on tradition, where our family is your family, and we stick together. We invite you to meet Arpin Van Lines President and CEO, David Arpin.
Well, there were a couple. One that I can talk about. It's kind of funny. My brother Stephen, I think I was 22. I believe I was just finished my senior year in college, and I was driving a tractor trailer, and we went down to do a move for a new senior vice president of Industrial National Bank who was moving from Westchester, New York to Barrington, Rhode Island. So I get to the house and ring the doorbell, introduce myself, and it's the maid. And she said to me, yes, young man, you're here to move, and could you come around to the back of the house? I said, sure. So it was one of those houses that was on like a street, beautiful old brick home, long driveway down the side of the house into a two-car garage. You walked around the back and you went into the kitchen in the back of the house. She comes around, she tells me that I need to take off my shoes before I come into the house, and I'm with my brother Stephen, who's 3 years younger than me. And he's looking at me, he's like tapping me like, are you kidding? So we take off our shoes, and the maid takes us around to show us what's gonna go, and pretty much everything in the house is gonna go because they've got a couple of kids. They're young kids, they're moving them up to Rhode Island because the husband is taking a big job with Industrial National Bank, who was the largest bank in Rhode Island at that time, the predecessor to Fleet National Bank, Bank of America today. So the woman comes down and she won't talk to me. And so I went to introduce herself, and she just kind of walked by, and I said to the maid, is that the woman of the house? And she said, yes, she won't talk to you. I understand from listening to this woman that she's got a heavy German accent. And as I looked around the house, I realized there were some beautiful things in the home, absolutely gorgeous. One of a kind, paintings that were from probably 17th and 18th century, some period furniture pieces, some Queen Anne couches, just gorgeous things. The china in the dining room was all high-end European, beautiful china. Delft china is what it was called. I believe it was Royal Dalton. Make a long story short, I asked the maid if we were going to have to keep our shoes off the whole time, and the woman heard me ask it, and she came over in a heavy German accent and said, you will not be in my house with your shoes on. So, I thought about it, like, should I call my dad? And I'm like, I'm not calling my dad. I'll see what I can do to deal with it. So we brought all of the packing material in, my brother and I. It was probably 18 to 20,000 pounds. Figured we'd take probably 3 days to pack and load it. Having thought about having to have my shoes off, coming in the back door, taking my shoes off and putting them on, I figured it was going to be a 5-day job. So anyway, we went in, started packing, got all the packing material, the back door, took our shoes off, brought it in, and started the packing. And I'm thinking, how am I going to get this job done in 3 days? Because I was a contractor, basically, looking to try and get it done in 3 days rather than 5. So, contemplating it, and eventually the husband shows up. I'm still there working at 5 o'clock. And the woman said, comes over to me, and not to me actually, to the maid, and I hear her telling the maid, you tell those guys it's time to get out of my house. So the maid comes over and she said, her husband's home and it's time, you guys are going to have to leave so that the family can have dinner. So I said, oh, okay. And at that point, I was putting my shoes on to leave, and the husband looks at me and he said, young man, you're rather young to be handling all of my furniture. How long have you been doing this? I basically said, well, I was kind of born into the business. So he said, so what does that mean? I said, well, my father in the moving business, my grandfather and my great-grandfather, so I've been doing it, since the time I could walk. So he said, so are you good at this? And I said, I'm the best. And he started laughing. So he asked to walk around with me, and we're walking around, and he said, this grandfather clock came from my wife's family, and it was actually given to her grandfather by her grandfather, so it's about 400 years old. And I'm like, okay, yeah. I said, well, I'm going to crate that clock, because back then we did our own crating. So he says, you can do that? And I says, oh yeah, I can do that. And he said, why do you have your shoes off? I said, well, I was told by your wife, actually not by your wife, but by the maid, that we wouldn't be allowed to come into the house without our shoes on. And he goes, what? I said, yeah. So he disappears for a minute, and I see him huddled with the maid and the wife. He comes back, he said, son, go put your shoes on, do the job to the best of your ability. He said, how long do you want to work tonight? I said, well, it would help me if I could work to probably 7:30, 8 o'clock. I was hoping to get the job done in 3 days. He said, that's what I want. He said, if you can get me out of here in 3 days, get us settled into this house by Friday night, or if you have to come back Saturday, that's fine. This was Monday night. So I said, fine. He packs up the family. They disappear. I never saw the wife or kids again. I saw him and the maid. They allowed us to do the job. So I went from being fearful of having to walk out the door, put my shoes on, pick up the piece of furniture, take it to the truck, walk down the alley. He said, you park the truck in front of the house, you do what you want, I'll get up, I'll go out and buy breakfast for you in the morning, I'll buy you lunch, you do whatever you need to do to get me out of here. It turned out to be one of the easiest moves I've ever had in my life. It ended up weighing just about 21,000 pounds. Back then you only had 40-foot, actually we had a brand new 42-foot trailer, first one that Arpin had. And got it all on the trailer, finished it in 3 days. I didn't get out of there till about 7:30 on Wednesday night. We delivered, it was only 2.5-hour ride here to Rhode Island. Delivered it Thursday and Friday. Had it mostly unpacked Friday night, went back Saturday morning, finished it. Back then it was unheard of. The guy gave me and my brother $500 each as a tip. Turned out to be for me, a very troublesome move, turned into a breeze. No claim filed. Guy was happy, went to, Industrial National Bank, told him what a great job we did. So I kind of learned a lesson in that sometimes you just need to do the job to the best of your ability and things will work out, and they actually worked out terrific. But I had a lot of funky moves. When I first drove the tractor trailer, I had another one where I had to back into a customer's home in Dayton, Ohio at 7:30, 7:45 in the morning in 8 o'clock traffic. And it was the toughest driveway I ever had to get into. And again, I was with my younger brother, just the two of us. And people were yelling and screaming and throwing us the one-gun salute as I was holding traffic up on both sides of the street trying to back in. But eventually I learned how to back up the trailer, and just part of the learning curve.
Arpin Van Lines, family strong for over a century. Interested in joining the Arpin family? Visit www.driveforarpin.com or call 877-759-3522 for further information.